Right. This short story, Nightingale and the Rose, is the third prose you are learning in your syllabus. Lumber Room is the first, Lahore Attack, Nightingale and the Rose, and then remaining another one prose, that is the Wilde. So this is a very beautiful short story written by an Irish writer, and he is also a poet. He is Oscar Wilde, right? So Oscar Wilde is an Irish writer, and remember, he's also a poet, right? So if we talk about Oscar Wilde, he's really a very popular playwright as well, right? He's actually doing kind of comedies, and that was done actually in the 19th century when he was little, in the 19th century only he started his comedies, and he gained a very good background from that. And he is belonging to the Victorian society as well, and he died in 1900, right? In 1900 he went away from this world. So when we talk about this Nightingale and the Rose, this is a story that shows how a student is trying to win the love of a girl. So this is a love related short story. So short story means they are kind of narrations, not like the novels. They are having a basic plot in that, and also that's why we call them a short story. Short story, from the word itself you understand, right? They are not like novels, they are not like folk tales, or I can tell they are not like ballads and all. So not like the ballads or poems, they are written in prose. We call them as prose. And this Nightingale and the Rose, the whole story is completely based on the student's love to the professor's daughter. And in this short story, Nightingale, that means a bird, and the red rose, they are considered as the materials that depict love. And very, very few characters are there, but only just two or more major characters are there. Others are just, normal characters. And if we talk about the structure of this Nightingale and the Rose, the arrangement, or I can say in other words, the plot is having different ways. Right now, in this story, very forward background and a backward movement is there. That means, like, talking about the future things and talking about certain past matters. Like characters are introduced, then the situation is taken from para to para, and the how the conflict is developed, what kind of a curiosity is given to the readers, and all those things are belonging to this plot. The theme of this Nightingale and the Rose, theme means the main idea, or we can say that message that the writer is trying to convey is about the love, right? This main thing is about the love. Certain social problems, they are also fabricated in this short story. So now let's go to the prose reading part. She said that she would dance with me if I brought her red roses. So the short story is starting with someone's direct speech. Somebody is telling, she said, will dance with me if I brought her red roses. So here you understand in the first line itself, the reader understand that red roses is depicting love. So we realize that this short story is trying to convey a love story. So that girl has said the boy she will dance with him if he bring a red rose, cried the young student. So young student, the word young shows how the love develops, right? But in all my garden, there is no red rose. From her nest in the holm oak tree, the nightingale heard him, and she looked out through the leaves and wondered. Now, when this young boy was crying about this matter, this was heard by a nightingale. That means a small bird who was in his garden oak tree. No red rose in all my garden, he cried. and his beautiful eyes filled with tears. Ah, on what little things does happiness depend? I have read all that the wise men have written, and all the secrets of philosophy are mine. Yet, for what a red rose is my life made rich? Now he's worried, like, now he is a person who is really, like, we can say he's a bookworm. He's really reading lots of books and he's philosophical. And he can't believe that he have read many books and he's having a very vast knowledge, and he's shocked why this small red rose is trying to change my life. Wretched means makes him unhappy. So why this red rose is make me unhappy, right? Here at last is a true lover, said the nightingale. Night after night have I sung of him. Now you understand, the bird is talking, the bird is responding. So this story is kind of a fairy tale. So most of these fairy tales, they bring the stories of fairies, angels, gods, and the goddesses. So those characters are giving certain miraculous power to the story. They are very connected to the story, like just like miracles, right? So these stories are interesting and they become very popular because of these fairy tales only. So that is a kind of factor of the literary world, using the fairy tales, right? So that's why he had taken the nightingale in this short story. So Nightingale is telling, wow, finally I saw a true lover, because that's what she saw. She saw that the young boy is crying and he's waiting for the opportunity to dance with the girl. Night after night have I sung of him, though I knew him not. So that means this nightingale is not that aware with the boy. He doesn't know him much. Night after night have I told his story to the stars, and now I see him. His hair is dark as the hyacinth blossom, and his lips are red as the rose of his desire. But passion has made his face like pale ivory, and sorrow has set her seal upon his brow. Now she's comparing his features to certain things. What is that? His hair is dark as the hyacinth blossom. So that is a plant which consists, like, blue, white, pink flowers are there in that plant. Very sweet smell, that hyacinth flower, right? So she's telling that his hair is dark as those flowers, the plant's flowers. His lips are red as the rose of his desire. His lips are red as the rose. So the rose that he is expecting, the red rose. But passion has made his face like pale ivory. So now she is worried that he is not happy. He looks sick. So pale. So pale means that he looks, very unhappy. He's not in a good mood. Likewise. Ivory means a very yellowish kind of a bone. We take ivory from these tusks and all. So his face has become pale. Ivory means kind of, yellow, dull. We call dull. The prince gives a ball tomorrow night, murmured the young student. So the young student is now talking to himself that a prince is giving a ball to at night. That means they can dance there in the palace. And my love will be of the company. Now he's dreaming, suppose if that girl danced with him on that day night. If I bring her a red rose, she will dance with me till dawn. Now he's very happy that suppose if he was able to take a red rose to her until the dawn, they will dance together. If I bring her a red rose, I shall hold her in my arms, and she will lean her head upon my shoulder, and her hand will clasp in mine. But there is no red rose in my garden. So I shall sit lonely, and she will pass me by. She will have no heed of me, and my heart will break. What is heed? She will not have any careful attention on him. Heed means paying careful attention. No heed means not paying any careful attention. So he's talking about both the possibilities. Both the possibilities. So what you understand here, in the introduction part, Oscar Wilde is telling about the nightingale and the rose. So he has included certain fairy stories here. Okay, and the central character of this short story is a normal, ordinary person. That's a young boy. He has become crazy with these ordinary human feelings. Love is one of the ordinary human feelings that comes in the particular age. So the student, he has seen a girl and he's mad with her. He's mad with love. So she has said him, if you give me a red rose, I will dance with you. So he is trying to develop some deep love towards her. So that part of the story is showing the common human nature. But when you go in the flow, you understand a certain attribute is given to the fairy tale. So for example, I can tell nightingale. Nightingale is a bird, but it's trying to get attributed with the human qualities. It's trying to give a small support to the boy's love. So let's see how it does that. Here indeed is the true lover, said the nightingale. What I sing of, he suffers. What is joy to me, to him is pain. Surely love is a wonderful thing. It is more precious than emeralds and dearer than fine opals. Pearls and pomegranates cannot buy it. No, it is set forth in the marketplace. It may not be purchased all of the merchants. No, it can be weighed out in the balance for gold. So how he appreciates the love in a very great way, in a very precious way, the nightingale is talking about the value of love. So now it's very, emotionally connected with the boy. So what you understand now, the red rose is taken as the symbol of love. So whole story is flowing with the red rose. Red rose is the material, and even the conflict is going again with the red rose only. So now understand the value of real love. So she's promoting the value of love through the words. What are the words? What I sing, he suffers. What is joy to me, to him is pain. So she is taking much pain to try to find a red rose for this boy. And according to Nightingale, by just observing the behavior of the boy, it has felt that love is more precious than the emeralds, dearer than the fine opals. So this is how the Nightingale is expressing its views, promoting the value of love. The musicians will sit in the gallery, said the young student. Now, can you understand these two roles are playing? You can think this as a drama, just think. The boy is keeping calm and he's thinking, he's brooding at the sky. Okay, tomorrow the prince is giving a party. I will be dancing with her, I'll touch her hip and I will, give the red rose and we will be together. We will be dancing until the dawn and all. So in response to that, Nightingale said, how love is precious. Again, the boy is now talking. Musicians will sit in their gallery, said the young student. Now he's imagining how it will be. How will it be when they go there? How can they spend their time? The musicians will sit in their gallery, said the young student, and play upon their stringed instruments, and my love will dance to the sound of the harp and the violin. So now he's imagining how he's going to spend the time with the girl in the palace. Harp means it's a very large musical instrument. So you have to underline these words and note them down. You can get them in certain parts, right? Harp means a very large musical instrument. Now, this is the imagination of the boy. It's not happening. It is the imagination of the boy. So this is listened by the nightingale who is upon the oak tree. She will dance so lightly that her feet will not touch the floor, and the courtiers in their gay dresses will throng round her. So now he's imagining for her beauty, everyone will look at her. right? Courtier means that is the person who is a part of the king's court. Courtiers, part of the king's court. So he says that they will look at her, she will dance very smoothly, even her feet will not touch the floor. He's imagining what kind of a very smooth time it's going to be. But with me, she will not dance, for I have no red rose to give her. And he flung himself down on the grass and buried his face in his hands and wept. So he kneeled down and he just kept his hands on his face. And now he's so worried that because he cannot give a red rose. So he imagined how she will dance with him in the ball, how she would become the central character of the crowd. But everything was confused just only for an imagination, because it doesn't come true. That's why he says, with me she will not dance. I have no red rose to give her. So this is the nature of love. Writer is mentioning the student's drops of tears, because his love is that great. So the student's character is presented as an unfortunate lover. We can tell the student as an unfortunate lover, because he couldn't give a red rose to her to dance with him to that night. Why is he weeping? Asked the little green lizard as he ran past him with his tail in the air. Now you get another character. Another character is coming into the story. A fairy tale this is. So one part is Nightingale, and the other one now the green lizard. Some more you will meet. So these are trying to attribute certain roles into the human world, right? Characters of fairy tales, right? So the green lizard is telling, why is he weeping? So butterfly asks, why indeed? Said a butterfly who was fluttering about after a sunbeam. So all these are passing the boy and going. So when they pass, they listen to this, they heard this, and they ask these questions among their among their environment, whatever the animals were around. He is weeping for a red rose, said the nightingale. So nightingale is the only animal, the only bird who saw this incident completely. So she was able to reply for their question, right? So the language that Oscar Wilde has used is very interesting. He's making this story into a very interesting poetic language, very simple, but very attractive. This is going with a conversational form. That's a dialogue between Nightingale and the others. Others means the green lizard, butterfly, and you will see another daisy is there. So whatever the sentence that they utter, they are very short sentences, but there is a repetition. That's why the butterfly asks, why indeed? So you can see there are three whys. Now the butterfly says, the daisy says, and even the first question, the green lizard asks why. So Nightingale is responding for them. Why indeed, whispered a daisy to his neighbor in a soft, low voice. He is weeping for a red rose, said the nightingale. For a red rose? They cried. How very ridiculous! And the little lizard, who was something of a cynic, laughed outright. So why is he crying for a red rose? Oh my God, it's ridiculous. Ridiculous means very silly. Very silly. Right? So everyone laughed together. Little lizard, who was something of a cynic. Cynic means a person believes that people do things do things to help themselves rather than it become a good thing or for a honest reason. They do certain things for themselves only, right? So in that kind of a thought only, this little lizard also laughed. Humans are not, they are not deep lovers, like kind of an idea. So they all laughed together because they were thinking this is a very silly reason for a human to cry. But The nightingale understood the secret of the student's sorrow, and she sat silent in the oak tree and thought about the mystery of love. But the nightingale, who was listening to all this story from the beginning, she understood what kind of a deep thing is love, what kind of a precious thing. That's why it told it costs more than the emeralds and all. It understands the worth. Suddenly, she spread her brown wings for flight and soared into the air. She passed through the grove like a shadow, and like a shadow, she sailed across the garden. So now the nightingale is giving its fullest effort to find for a red rose, because it knows that if the boy could give a red rose to the girl, they could dance in the ball tomorrow night. So less time available now. So the nightingale is taking very quick reaction than talking like this green lizard, the daisy, and the butterfly, than talking like them. She is trying to give an effort to find a red rose to this boy and to leave his sorrow. So she went very fast. In the center of the grass plot was standing a beautiful rose tree, and when she saw it, she flew over to it and lit upon a spray. "Give me a red rose," she cried, "and I will sing you my sweetest song." So Nightingale can sing very well. So it says that now you understand that this whole sequence of incident taking place in the plot is becoming very interesting. The reader feels like whether the nightingale can find a red rose or not. So the plot is starting with the inception of a conflict. How to win the love of the girl. So this plot is starting with the revelation that the girl has demanded a red rose, but red roses are not to be seen in that particular environment. So that student, the lover, is now highly worried. So to remove this worry, Nightingale interfere and try to bring a very new light to this conflict. She is assuring that that worried lover will find a red rose somehow to bring his dream of love true. So now the conflict is beginning. The conflict is beginning when the nightingale is asking the red rose from the red rose plant. So she is visiting that red rose plant and requesting, "Give me a red rose." We'll see what's going on. But the tree shook its head. "My roses are white," it answered, "as white as the foam of the sea and whiter than the snow upon the mountain." So why Oscar Wilde is giving this kind of, similes? Because he wants the reader to understand what kind of white. White as the foam of the sea, whiter than the snow upon the mountain. But go to my brother who grows round this old sundial, and perhaps he will give you what you want. Now, unfortunately, this red rose plant is not having a red rose. So now what happens? Red rose is saying, "I don't have any red roses. My roses are white." So the reader understand what kind of a white because of those similes what Oscar Wilde has used. Right? So he's saying, "You go to my brother, he's in the place of around the sundial." So the nightingale flew over to the rose tree that was growing around the sundial. "Give me a red rose," she cried, "and I will sing you my sweetest song." But the tree shook its head. Now what happened? This is creating much curiosity and anxiety for the readers. So minds of the readers are now, become so tensed because it's depending on the conflict of the plot. Nightingale is flying to the rose tree, growing around that old sundial, and it's asking for the red rose. Same request she is making, but there also the response was same. That rose plant is also shaking its head. So what can the reader understand now? That plant is also giving a negative answer. A negative answer. My roses are yellow, it answered, as yellow as the hair of the mermaiden who sits upon an amber throne. So the reader understand how yellowish it is. Amber means a very, very clear yellowish substance. We use those things to make these kind of jewelries and all. So then you understand jewelries are so yellowish, right? So that yellow thing only, that yellow color only, these yellow roses also. And yellower than the daffodil that blooms in the meadow before the mower comes with his scythe. So he explains what kind of yellow. He's comparing to two similes, as yellow as the hair of the mermaid and yellower than the daffodil. But go to my brother who grows beneath the student's window, and perhaps he will give you what you want. Now he's saying, but I think I can help you. You better go to that my brother who is below the student's window. Now what happened? Nightingale is flying to the rose tree growing beneath the student's window also. So let's see how is their response. Give me a red rose, she cried, and I will sing you my sweetest song. But the tree shook its head. Oh, there also he shook its head. Now, writer is promoting the conflict of the plot to a very great extent. So, through that, Oscar Wilde is establishing a curiosity in the reader's mind. The red rose is the material of this whole plot. Because of that, only the incident is becoming a very critical part. My roses are red, it answered, as red as the feet of the dove, and redder than the great fans of coral that wave and wave in the ocean cavern. Now he's explaining how what we call the red thing. Now the nightingale and the readers are a little bit shocked. Okay, it's a red rose. Then why worried? Why did it shook its head? What's wrong with it? The readers they get confused. It is very red as the feet of the dove and corals of the ocean. But the winter has chilled my veins, and the frost has nipped my buds. Because of the winter, this rose plant can't produce. Nipped means, harmed, damaged. The winter has damaged the veins of the red rose. And the storm has broken my branches, and I shall have no roses at all this year. So the red rose plant is so worried, it cannot produce a red rose. It cannot produce a red rose, though it has one. Though it is a red rose plant, still can't. So you understand, writer is trying to set the incidents very, very nicely because he wants to promote the conflict of the plot. So this climax of the plot is now going to be a very interesting one because third rose plant is giving another good idea. Now we'll see what he says. One red rose is all I want, cried the nightingale. Only one red rose. Is there no way by which I can get it? So Nightingale is so highly worried that, oh my God, I came to a red rose plant, but why didn't I get a chance of getting one red rose? Why can't I get a red rose from here? Highly worried. Now it's weeping for that. I'm asking only one. Try to give me one. There is a way, answered the tree. Now the readers are also waking up. There is a way. But it is so terrible that I dare not to tell it to you. Of course, if you are worrying like this, there is a way, but I can't tell you. It's really, painful. It's terrible. But Nightingale is ready to do anything for the boy's love, for a true lover. Tell it to me, said the Nightingale. I am not afraid. If you want a red rose, said the tree, you must build it out of music by moonlight and stain it with your own heart's blood. You must sing to me with your breast against a throne. All night long you must sing to me, and the thorn must pierce your heart, and your lifeblood must flow into my veins and become mine. So this is what the red rose say. So reader becomes more and more curious. So this flow of the plot is now diverted into another direction. Nightingale is given a very risky proposal from the red rose plant. But we'll see how the nightingale is trying to react to this. Death is a great price to pay for a red rose, cried the nightingale, and life is very dear to all. It is pleasant to sit in the greenwood and to watch the sun in his chariot of gold, and the moon in the chariot of pearl. Sweet is the scent of the hawthorn, and sweet are the bluebells that hide in the valley, and the heather that blows on the hill. Yet love is better than life, and what is the heart of a bird compared to the heart of a man? So now the nightingale is accepting that risky proposal. She's taking a risk on her own life for the sake of love. She believes in love, and she thinks love is greater than anything and very precious. So Oscar Wilde is describing how the nightingale is dealing with this challenge. What kind of a brave mind it has just because for a true lover that he saw. She says, love is better than life, and what is the heart of a bird compared to the heart of a man? So you understand, very prominent role is played by the nightingale in the conflict of this whole plot. So that red plant is telling for the nightingale, if you want a rose flower, you have to make it from your own blood. That bird should stick her breast on the vein, or we can say on the thorn of the red rose plant, and should sing all night. Should sing all night. So it's really a difficult task, right? But nightingale, it takes this risk. Those words are very emotional. She's telling what's the bird's heart when compared to a man's heart, right? So she spread her brown wings for flight and soared into the air. She swept over the garden like a shadow, and like a shadow she sailed through the grove. Now she flew away to the sky, and she slowly went up and down. And now soar means into the air, okay? Soar means into the air. Like quickly it flew into the air. And it's now getting ready to sacrifice its life. So until the rose becomes red, the nightingale should pierce its breast on the thorn, against the thorn. That is the challenge given here. The young student was still lying on the grass. So he's weeping. We know that he was weeping. He was putting his hands on his head. Then he's highly worried now. Like, you know what kind of a feeling that is. A boy, if he cannot win the love of a girl, he feels so moody. So he feels so upset, and he's now worried, and he's just staying in that place and he's crying. But this nightingale, who just was listening to his sorrow, it's going to give a very great effort and risk. He's going to take a very risk just to make this boy happy and to let his real love come true. Where she had left him, and the tears were not yet dry in his beautiful eyes. So still he's crying, and his are not yet dried. Be happy, cried the nightingale. Be happy. You shall have your red rose. I will build it out of my music by moonlight and stay. And that I ask of you in return is that you will be a true lover. I will make you a red rose. You don't worry about that. I will build it. So now the nightingale accepts the proposal and it's taking the risk. It's going to build the red rose by the music, by the moonlight. That means it's going to sing. But it says one condition: all that I ask of you in return, if you want to pay back me something, that is, I want you to be a true lover. Love is wiser than philosophy. because it knows that this young boy is a bookworm. He's always reading these philosophical things and stuff. So she believes in love, and she's thinking that love is something very greater than anything. And Oscar Wilde is describing how the nightingale is now getting ready to make a big effort to just obtain a red rose. So the climax is bringing the conflict into a very highest point. Reader is becoming more curious and anxious because readers are thinking whether the nightingale will be alive, will it be able to see the boy and the girl dancing, and so on. So although this is a fairy story, it brings a very hard hard emotion to us. So that means Oscar Wilde has been successful in creating a very serious situation. He has been successful in attracting the reader's attention. Right? Now let's see. Though she is wise and mightier than power, though he is mighty, flame colored are his wings, and colored like flame is his body. His lips are sweet as honey, and his breath is like frankincense. So now, Nightingale is appreciating the boy's features, how he looks like, and Nightingale has fallen mad on him on the way that he loves the girl. Frankincense means that is a substance that we burn and that gives a very pleasant smell, especially during these religious ceremonies and all. They use these kind of things. So he's comparing the boy's lips into that, right? The student looked up from the grass and listened. And now he heard that the bird is singing. He heard the bird is singing, and he looked up and he listened. What's that? But he could not understand what the nightingale was saying to him, for he only knew the things that are written down in books. So that keeps the reader to feel he is not matured enough to understand the love. He is not matured enough. There is a maturity for love. It's not just a game. He did not understand that. That was the boy like the girl is just only uh, a like. We call it as a like only. It's not the real love, because he's just a student still. He doesn't understand the seriousness behind the love. But the oak tree understood and felt sad, for he was very fond of the little nightingale who had built her nest in his branches. But the oak tree where the nightingale built its nest, he understood what the nightingale is saying, what the nightingale is requesting the boy. So then the reader also understand, the nature will understand another object in the nature, not the humans. Now the oak tree says, "Sing me one last song," he whispered. "I shall feel very lonely when you are gone." So the readers are now feeling so emotional that the nightingale will not be anymore. So the nightingale sang the oak tree, and her voice was like water bubbling from a silver jar. Similes. The nightingale's voice was just like water bubbling in the silver jar. This is a simile. When she had finished her song, the student got up and pulled a notebook and a lead pencil out of his pocket. "She has form," he said to himself as he walked away through the grove. "That cannot be denied to her. But has she got feeling? I am not afraid not. In fact, she is like most artists. She is all style without any sincerity. She would not sacrifice herself for the others. She thinks merely of music, and everybody knows that arts are selfish," because he is a person who is believing philosophy. She thinks merely of music, and everybody knows that arts are selfish. Still, it must be admitted, she has some beautiful notes in her voice. What a pity it is that they do not mean anything or do any practical good. And he went into his room and lay down on his little pallet bed and began to think of his love. And after a time, he fell asleep. Now, all this time, the boy is telling about whom? The nightingale. After he gets up from that grass, he heard the nightingale was singing for a long time. And he says now, oh, what is he singing? No meaning at all. It's just, just in vain, that tone. But he says he's appreciating that tone as well. But he doesn't understand what it is singing about. He doesn't understand that. But he did not understand the nightingale is singing for him. And he, according to the boy, art is foolish and selfish. And he is showing pity on her that it doesn't mean anything and it doesn't make any good for anyone, that song. After some times, he went to his room and he was brooding about the love, and then he fell asleep. So he forgot all those incidents. Right? Let's see what's happening after that. And when the moon shone in the heavens, the nightingale flew to the rose tree and set her breast against the thorn. Now the moon has come out. That means now it's a time to make the red rose, to build up the red rose. So the boy is sleeping now. Nightingale is going to give an effort to build the red rose. All night long, she sang with her breast against the thorn. So when the night comes, Nightingale pierced its breast on the red rose plant, on the thorn. And cold crystal moon leaned down and listened. So now this Oscar Wilde is showing that fairy nature. The moon did not lean down to see the nightingale's song. But exaggeration is done, hyperbole. Hyperbolically, Oscar Wilde is telling the moon leaned down because it wants to listen to the song. All night long she sang, and the thorn went deeper and deeper into her breast, and her lifeblood ebbed away from her. The blood came out and flowed into the veins of the red rose plant, and the blood of the nightingale went away from its body. Ebb means moving away from that land. It's getting gradually weaker. Now the nightingale has no much strength. Right? She sang first of the birth of love in the heart of a boy and a girl. And on the topmost spray of the rose tree, there blossomed a marvelous rose, petal following petal. Now the flower is blooming, one petal, another petal, petal following a petal. As song followed song, pale was it at first as the mist that hangs over the river. Now the bird is getting pale because the blood is getting, away from the body. A pale as the feet of the morning and silver as the wings of the dawn. As the shadow of a rose in a mirror of silver. As the shadow of a rose in a water pool. See how many similes Oscar Wilde has used to make the story so interesting. So was the rose that blossomed on the topmost spray of the tree. Now the rose bloomed. The rose bloomed just because of the risk taken by the nightingale. Right? Nightingale has given that effort and it was able to bring up a red rose. But the tree cried to the nightingale to press closer against the thorn. Press closer, little nightingale, cried the tree. Oh, the day will come before the rose is finished. So when it says like this, nightingale gets more tense. Before tomorrow morning, you have to pierce. If not, you can't produce the red rose. So the nightingale pressed closer against the thorn, and louder grew her song, because it's really painful for her. That is a really painful feeling for her. Like, how do you feel when you prick your hand with a safety pin or any other thorn or something? But nightingale, being such brave, it pierced its breast against the thorn. So red rose is taken as the token of the love, the true love. So because she is trying to console the student, she's doing this, she's showing her sincerity. She's doing this sacrifice just because of the sake of love, because Nightingale told that love is better than life. Love is better than life, right? She sang of the birth of passion in the soul of a man and a maid, and a delicate flush of pink came into the leaves of the rose. Now, rose is becoming little pinkish. That means the dark color is going to come, like the flush in the face of the bridegroom when he kisses the lips of the bride. That pink is how? What kind of a pink? It's just like the flush. That flush means that bright light occurs in the bridegroom's face when he kisses the lips of the bride. But the thorn had not yet reached her heart, but that rose thorn still haven't gone deeper into the heart. So the rose's heart remained white, so little whitish, pinkish. It's not exactly red. For only a nightingale's heart's blood can crimson the heart of a rose. That crimson red should come to make the red rose a very beautiful crimson red color one. And the tree cried to the nightingale to press closer against the thorn. Press closer, yeah. So the nightingale pressed closer against the thorn, and the thorn touched her heart. Finally, the thorn touched her heart, and a fierce pang of pain shot through her. Bitter, bitter was the pain, now unbearable. That pain is unbearable for the nightingale. It cannot bear that pain. It's so hard for it now. It's in the climax is now at the peak point. And wilder grew her song, for she sang of the love that is perfected by death, of the love that dies not in the tomb. So this love, it should not die. For Nightingale, this love should not die. And it wants that this love to win. This boy should win the love of the girl, right? So love is perfected by death. That means Nightingale told that love is better than life. That's why it gave. And that's why it says like that. And the other thing, Nightingale told that heart of the bird, what is heart of the bird compared to man's heart? That's why it pierced its heart towards that thorn of the red rose to build up a red rose for the boy. And the marvelous rose became crimson. Wow. Now, after the thorn pierced deeper into the red nightingale's heart, now the rose is becoming crimson red. Like the rose of the eastern sky, crimson was the girdle of petals, and crimson as the ruby was the heart. Ruby is a gem. Girdle means that's something we can find underwater. Okay, things are surrounded, that it's becoming like reddish. So that kind of a red color is there for this red rose, what was produced by the pure blood of Nightingale. But unfortunately, there is a very sad news. Nightingale's voice grew fainter. That means now it can't sing anymore, weak. And her little wings began to beat. So like, how do you see like a fish is taken away from the water, how it wriggles and all, because it can't survive. So that kind of way, Nightingale is now beating its wings, and a film came over her eyes. Film came over her eyes means when we are closer to our death, we see different incidents, all the things what happened in our life, just like a film, everything comes in front of us. That means Nightingale is now going to lose its life. Fainter and fainter grew her song, and she felt something choking her in her throat. That means now it's time for her death. It's time for the nightingale to leave the world. It cannot talk anymore, choking. Something is stopping its voice. The song is not coming out. So you understand what kind of a great pain it might have suffered to produce this red rose. Then she gave one last burst of music. The white moon heard it, and she forgot the dawn and lingered on in the sky. The red rose heard it and it trembled all over with ecstasy and opened its petals to the cold morning air. Now it has become morning. Ecstasy means the feelings, a very great happiness. The red rose plant is now very happy that it could produce a red rose. And it started to open its petal. That means now the morning has arisen. Echo bore it to her purple cavern in the hills and woke the sleeping shepherds from their dreams. It floated through the reeds of the river and they carried its message to the sea. They are explaining certain incidents what took place after the red rose was produced. Everyone around they got to know that there is a red rose produced finally, because that music was that louder. Everyone heard it. The white moon heard it. And before the dawn, Nightingale was very successful in producing a red rose. Look, look, cried the tree. The rose is finished now. But the nightingale made no answer, for she was lying dead in the long grass with a thorn in her heart. Now, the nightingale is not in a position of responding everyone. Everyone were happy. Everyone were happy to see a red rose produced finally in this winter. But not a single voice was made by the nightingale. She was just lying dead in the long grass, and that thorn was still pierced inside her heart. So when all these incidents are taking place, everyone were happy, and we'll see how the student reacts. Now the readers are very curiously waiting what kind of a joy the student will have. And at noon, the student opened his window and looked out. Why, what a wonderful piece of luck, he cried. Here is a red rose. I have never seen any rose like it in all my life. It is so beautiful that I am sure it has a long Latin name. So there you understand, again he is bringing up his philosophical thoughts, his philosophical knowledge. And he leaned down and plucked it. Then he put on his hat and ran up to the professor's house with the red rose in his hand. Now he's really happy and happy that he quickly went to the professor's house to give the red rose to the girl and to make her happy and to get her permission to dance. The daughter of the professor was sitting in the doorway, winding blue silk on a reel, winding the blue silk on a reel, and her little dog was lying at her feet. Now the girl is sitting and staying. You said that you would dance with me if I brought you a red rose, cried the student. Here is the reddest rose in all the world. You will wear it tonight next your heart. And as we dance together, it will tell you how I love you. Right now, he's dreaming about the permission. Right? He's telling, you asked me a red rose, right? Okay, here it is. This is for you. You have this with you. We'll dance together at night. Like that, he's requesting the girl now. But the girl frowned. Oh, the girl frowned now. Right, now the readers are so curious.
Frown.
I am afraid it will not go with my dress, she answered. Now the girl is telling, after all these incidents happen, she is telling, I think that rose is not matching for my dress. Today I'm not going to wear that colored one, she answered. And besides, the Chamberlain's nephew has sent me some real jewels, and everybody knows that jewels cost far more than flowers. She is saying now, Chamberlain's nephew has brought her jewels and come. So student is now the student, he noticed that red rose and he was really happy, and he doesn't know how that flower came even. He only thinks about winning the girl's love. So that's why he immediately picked the flower and he went to the girl. So writer has introduced the red rose as a symbol of love. Just offering that flower to the girl, he is inviting her to dance with him. But unexpectedly, girl is refusing his invitation. She is accusing him. She's telling, She has received some real jewels from the Chamberlain's nephew. And she's saying jewelries are costing more than the flower. And then secondly, she is telling, see, ungrateful. Okay, well, upon my word, you are very ungrateful, said the student angrily. Student was really angry because he was dreaming the whole day. Because she said that she demanded for a red rose. So how can she tell this word at the last moment? He was so angry. And he threw the red rose into the street. My God. He threw that hardly produced red rose into the street, where it fell into the gutter and a cart wheel went over it. Gutter means the edge of the road. It went to the edge of the road and it got trampled by the cart wheel. Ungrateful, said the girl. The boy said the girl, she's ungrateful. And now she's telling him, you're ungrateful. You're only not worth, said the girl. I tell you what, you are very rude. And after all, who are you? Only a student. Why, I don't believe you have even got silver buckles to your shoes as the Chamberlain's nephew has. She's telling, you even don't have the silver buckles in your shoes. So he's underestimating him. She's pointing out that he is not rich enough. He's not wealthy. And she's saying, you are just a student. Who are you? How can I love you? And she got up from her chair and went into the house. So secondly, what happened? She is expressing her displeasure over the flower, and she's telling that it's not matching with her dress. And not only that, she's accusing that he is just a student. She's comparing his simplicity and Chamberlain's nephew luxury. How wealthy the Chamberlain's nephew and how poor you are. Now what's happening? The girl went away. What a silly thing love is. Now the boy is telling, what a silly thing love is. It's nothing. It's not half as useful as logic, because he is a person who does philosophies and all. So now he is compelled to demand the love on reality. It is not half as useful as logic. It does not prove anything. It is always telling me of things that are not going to happen and making one believe things are not true. I shall go back to philosophy and study metaphysics. So what you understand now, the boy is eventually going to his studies back again. He's going back to that. So when now the student is expressing his confusion, he's very confused because when his feeling of love is now not respected. At first he gave priority to his heart, and then he did the loving. He underestimated his studies. So this is the main part of the conflict, we can say. When a student if he's a student, first thing is he should learn. He became crazy with those stupid feelings and he started seeking the company of love. So unexpectedly, the girl refused him. And what happened? The boy had to suffer. Right? What a silly thing. Love is, and he's going to study. So he returned to his room and pulled out a great dusty book and began to read. He forgot everything. Simply, very simply, he forgot everything. So although this short story is this is a fairy story, the factor that Oscar Wilde is trying to bring out is really important. Love is for our mental satisfaction. Love is sweet, of course. Love is really melodious. When you're tasting it, it's really melodious. But once you understand it, it becomes bitter. You will experience such kind of frustration. A very sorrowfulness will be coming. Instead of the pleasure, people will start suffering. But what you study as a student in your life forever, until you die, someday it will remain. So this universal truth is promoted in this short story. So Oscar Wilde has discussed some very crucial matters dealing in our real life in a very interesting way. Oscar Wilde has used a very interesting language, a very simple, attractive language. He's taking the whole plot in the dialogue form, as I told you previously. Very brief dialogues, but with very few characters. And finally, he's giving a very important message to all the students. This is the prose part of the Nightingale and the Rose.